So what is your advice to young people like us who want to get more involved in more public service work? In your opinion, what are the best ways to do this? And what advice do you have to people who are just generally very committed to the city and to helping vulnerable New Yorkers?
The pandemic, it's made volunteer opportunities a little harder to come by. It's harder to have groups. We certainly have had volunteers come out on our food program who are younger, and just the act of going and providing a meal to someone and doing that with some kindness and decency, I think is something that is incredibly powerful and impactful. And that's the experience of the vast majority of people who've ever volunteered on a food program. So things like that, I think, can be very meaningful. But I think also the activism is something that is really very much needed. I think the energy and the activism that young people brought, to issues like this and to expanding what, people think is even possible, and pushing the envelope to let us all know that we can be doing better on behalf of, all of our neighbors, and that everybody deserves something as basic as a home, are things that, we all can be doing. And there's ways to do that. And if you go to our website, we often have ways to participate in advocacy like that.
Okay, for starters, start right in your backyard. If you look up who your local assembly person or council representative is, that is the best way to get started. It's something we expose our young people to and also encourage them to do. The benefits, again, internships, you get the experience, and especially in times of COVID, there are a host of things you can do virtually. So you can participate in phone banking to help the older population get vaccinated. You can see how to direct people to direct services, whether it's food pantries, whether it's clothing, just the basic needs that folks need. And if you're okay, if your parents are okay with you actually doing the real boots on the ground work, try to see what mutual aid groups in your community are looking for help, and you can kind of extend a hand that way. And that's ideally the best way you should pay it forward, or you can pay it forward.
I have two quick tips. The first one is to stop fearing, stop doubting yourself and your ability to be able to lead effectively. Oftentimes we compare ourselves to folks that have years of experience, that have, perhaps maybe degrees or what have you not. Everyone has a starting point, right? And so as an example that Hassana just gave of potentially acquiring an internship with your elected official, you're going to get trained. You're going to get trained. You're going to have a supervisor that's going to help you, right? So stop doubting yourself, and stop having your fear. So that's the first one. And then the second one is just ask. Just ask. There's so many spaces. We actually didn't get a chance to talk about our internship program, but we have an internship program. And there are so many spaces that are eager and willing, and excited to be able to work with young people, but you're not going to be able to get to become aware of that unless you ask. So those would be my two tips.
They've said it all. You also just ask, don't be afraid.
Like just finding ways to volunteer, whether it's virtual or if you're comfortable in person. I still try to find time. Back in January on MLK Day of service, I volunteered with Food Bank NYC, and they had a program where you wrote letters to, they were going to be put in the bags of food that were going out to people. So that was like a great way to volunteer. So whether it's looking, New York Cares, I believe, has a really great website that provides opportunities. Talking to your school, maybe you guys can get a group, or encourage your teachers that you're interested in helping them, asking them to help find volunteer opportunities to you. A lot of times through a religious group, they have a lot of things on the site. But I think, just getting involved, looking at see what you like. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was in college until I volunteered on a campaign. But really trying to look out there and see all the different opportunities that you have, and don't get discouraged. I think, this year has been so hard. And I know for myself too, even like when we were doing that Food for Heroes program, I'm a hands-on person. Like I like to be there, like see what's going on, making sure, and I couldn't be there because of health purposes. And it was frustrating for me, but like I knew that we were still going to be able to do this work, and really trying to find outlets now. And then once things open up and you have those opportunities to actually go to the soup kitchen or, go to the shelter or go to the hospital to like thank the healthcare workers. But just, keep at it. Sometimes there's I'm trying to remember the names of like the groups that were when I was younger, in the high schools, like, student council sometimes organizes this thing. And you know what? And the other thing is, if no one's organizing it, you should.
The fact that you're here listening to me, the fact that you're part of this group, I think just is so much more mature than I was when I was in high school. From when you get involved, from when you get interested in a topic, I think you're gonna hit a point where you get disappointed, for lack of a better term, disappointed that not enough people care, disappointed that your power is limiting, disappointed that what you're doing is not as effective or efficient as you would like to be. And that step of disappointment is so necessary for you to achieve greater things. I really hope that it's not going to feel like it at the moment, but I hope that you take that moment of despair as a sign that I am doing the right thing. Because any good thing, any worthwhile thing isn't easy to achieve. So I would say, take heart. So corny, but just know that it's not going to be easy, and that when it's not easy, you're going to reach out to other people. You have your group. You're going to talk to other civic leaders or experts or anyone else who is interested in the topic as you are. And I hope you find solidarity in that. And just know that it's a long game. And along the way, you're gonna learn a lot of things about you. Hopefully, many of them are good things. And when it's not, just that itself is a valuable lesson. You might even find out the topic that you thought you were really interested isn't the topic that you want to devote your career to, and that's great. The sooner that you realize that, the better you are, because very rarely a person gets it right away. And I think you have technology at your disposal. I think it's incredible that you can find any community pretty much on any topics, and you are able to organize in a way that was extremely hard to do in the 60s and 70s. So take advantage of the technology at your disposal, but in the end, it's if your heart is on it, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worthwhile.
My hat goes off to you. And I want to say young people your age range, because when I was your age, I only worried about one thing, me. What am I doing? And to see this grow is heartwarming to know that you're there and help is on the way. My generation ruined this world. And you guys are here, you see that, and you're going to come fix it or help fix it. And that helps me sleep at night. But I'll tell you what, my best advice is no means maybe. Never take no for an answer. No means maybe. I have children your age, and I know your parents are probably listening, especially yours. Don't take this out of context. Every parent wants the best for their children. We want them to be doctors and lawyers, but what we really, really want is our children to be happy. Find what makes you happy and go after it. Just go after it. Don't take no for an answer.
I think as you begin to continue to develop and learn about who you are, I think it's important to self-reflect as you go throughout each of your stages of life, trying to really understand, okay, if I don't enjoy this internship or this class or whatever I'm learning in this moment, why is that, right? I think the whys are important. And the more you can ask why to a question, you then get to the root of what the real truth is, right? And so I really applaud that. And I think it's important to be a life learner, right? You can never know everything, and you can never be perfect at anything. So the more you learn, the more you challenge yourself, the more you self-reflect to kind of really answer those questions, things begin to open up, and you begin to have a better understanding of who you are and what you want.
You know, be open-minded, be vulnerable, do any job. That's my favorite thing in the world. Like you're not going to get like, you know, we have interns and stuff and they come in and they're all great. I mean, we've never had a bad intern, but there's this idea that you're going to like come to rethink and be like, you know, composting or like sitting around and like philosophizing about the future of food. Like, no, we actually just need you to write Instagram posts. Like that's the job, you know? So it's all about getting in there, getting your hands dirty, and no job is too small. I started as a dishwasher. It's okay, you know? And so just getting in there and doing it and being that, and then surrounding yourself with positive people and friends. And also, there's no reason why you can't start something with a group of friends now, you know?
I mean, you guys are a self-selected group of people. I appreciate that question because it's flattering to me. That's such a wonderful group of people, you know, as you all are taking up like at 2 o'clock in the middle of, you know, the afternoon of your day, like that you're here. You already know. I mean, it really is that I applaud you like for being part of this. And this is a movement that you guys are working through right now. And then just going and where you see needs or you see groups, just asking how you can be of help or be of service. And even if it's just to pick our brains, even if it's not a group that you directly have time to work with or want to work with, but we all know about so much other need. And just talking to people about what it is that you see, the things that you're interested in, you will find that there are so many ways for you to get plugged in. And again, I know that our future is bright, and I know that, and our present is bright too, because of the staff that I work with and because of folks like you and I.
Considering the, you know, the pandemic and safety, like going out into the community and volunteering at a food pantry, getting involved in different ways with your community is going to be a gateway for you to do even bigger things in the city.
I was going to say almost the exact same thing as like get out there and do the thing and like just see where you're needed. I think that's the most powerful thing. It can be really easy to come in with an idea of like what you think folks need. And if it's for your community, you might have real expertise in that. If it's not for your community, then I would go in like with the humility and get out, like try being in community. That really is where all of it comes. So
important thing is to find your heart work. It sounds corny, but I think, you know, community engagement can come in so many different like varieties and forms and formulas. You have to find the thing that you're truly passionate about and get out into the community and do that work in that area, because that's where you will, I always think you are the most effective when you're passionate about what you're doing. And so that would be my advice.
Different organizations and what's out there and what people do. What are the different types of roles, different organizations? What are you drawn to? There are a lot of different roles. There's a lot of different areas that can address issues that help vulnerable New Yorkers. I also think right now, kind of learning more about what it means to be vulnerable and talking and learning more about a lot of the vulnerable groups we talk about are oppressed groups, right? They're racialized groups, they're minoritized. So what does that actually mean? And making sure that we're going into these conversations and looking into these issues through that lens. And it's not necessarily about like, we want to help these homeless families. Like, yes, that's the fact, but what caused the families to be homeless and why are the families primarily Black and brown, and what does it take to change that down the line? You know, what would it really take, and kind of what is that experience like for them? And less so, again, kind of the, here's this blanket policy that's going to help everyone. It's got to be a combination of both, and more so kind of what I was just explaining, really understanding what it means to be marginalized and oppressed and how that fits into the ecosystem within New York City.
For a long time. And when I was a young person, I also cared a lot about like community issues. And what I did is I always reached back out to places that I knew I can access, right? And so for me, it was more so about supporting young women, because I know how hard it is to be a woman identifying person in this world. I know how hard it is to be a woman identifying person of color in this world. And so it's like, how can I reach back out, especially those who identify as immigrants or who come from strong immigrant households? And so I went back to my my elementary school and literally create and middle school. And I was like, hey, I was in high school, 15, and I was like, I want to create a group for girls. Can you let me do it? You know, and I went to like one of my favorite teachers who was still there, and she was like, okay, I'll just tell them it's me doing it, and then you can do it. And I was like, great. And I worked with, in the middle school, it was mostly 7th grade girls. And they thought, oh, they made like a role model or something like that because of, you know, they were having sex early, whatever it is. I'm like, first of all, kids have sex. I mean, that's not something, I can't stop them from having sex, right? But what I can do is to kind of create space to talk through things, to talk about what it means to have healthy relationships, right? What it means to have safe sex, right? And why are you doing it in the first place? And maybe kind of navigating those. And so that's a way that I kind of did it. And that would be my advice, is like, what connections do you have? Well, first of all, what are you interested in and passionate about? And then just reaching out to people and just be like, hey, I want to participate in this, volunteering. Our organization, I don't think we could do the work we do without the amount of volunteers we have. And so volunteering, reaching out to inquire about volunteering, a lot of, like I talk about that, like that group is meant to really do that. Like, how can we think about some of the issues that are impacting our communities and show up in a way that's meaningful to support around that issue, right? And so finding organizations that have structures like that, and then like inserting yourself, right, to push that forward. So that's some of my advice.
So what I would say to you is this, and you heard my own story, right? Find out what you're passionate about, right? Find out what interests you. What do you like to read? What jobs are you interested in? And try to work in those jobs. Talk to someone in your community and say, you know, I would really like to be a nurse. Is there any way I can volunteer in a hospital just to see what nurses do? And so try to do that now. You're in high school now. Try to get some experience. That way, by the time you're in college, you might say, you know, I always wanted to do like computer programming. Like my parents wanted me to be a doctor. They're computer programmers. You can try those courses in college. You can see if you like it. You can work in hospitals, or you can work in a bank, you know, doing financial stuff if that's what you're interested in. But my suggestion is go out there and experience. Don't worry about getting paid for it. Just volunteer in different sectors to see what you're interested in and what your passions are. Because by the time you're, you know, in college, you can start trying to take courses in that get a major in that area that you're interested in, to try to work in that field when you finish college, or if you go to a technical school, or even if you don't go to college, but you want to get experience in areas that you think may interest you down the road. And that's what I think you should do. And you should do it at a young age. And people are very impressed with how, you know, enthusiastic and committed young adults are. And we want to give people chances, right? And that's why offices like mine have high school internship programs, right? Because we want to spark that interest in people. And there's so many different industries that do the same thing. So find out what you're interested in and take your passion and go for it, right?
What would be the best thing? Just put yourself out there. Like I said, I can't talk for everyone. Everyone's going to have a different situation, but you know, I had different issues and troubles growing up with school and everything. I didn't always know what exactly I wanted to do. But one of the most important things that I learned was that, you know, so much of life is just showing up, whether you're showing up in person, whether you're showing up online, and just putting yourself out there. And even though you may feel a little uncomfortable, it may feel a little bit awkward, it may be something that you're like, I know I don't want to do this. Just get yourself involved and with as many different things, put yourself out there and power through it. Even if it doesn't seem like it's helpful now, or it feels like it's a waste of time, do it, because it's going to add a richness of experience to your experience. And you're going to learn a lot of lessons. So just put yourself out there, work hard, be honest, you know, be firm, but be respectable or respectful. And, you know, you'll figure it out. You know, if you stop trying things, you won't figure it out. But if you keep putting yourself out there, you know, eventually you will. It may not seem like it in the moment, but just be a good, honest, hardworking person, and you know, put yourself out there, and it'll come back to you. People have long memories. Over time, you meet a lot of people, you acquire different relationships, and you'll be amazed how much of that ends up coming back to you. But you have your reputation, and reputations last a very, very long time. So, you know, I know people when you're growing up sometimes do, you know, different things, but just make sure, you know, you try to be respectful and nice to people. Nice goes a long way.